Hello, loves. Welcome to another episode. I want to think of a name to address you all by when I say welcome. I mean, I know I say loves, I know I say queens. Self-lovers is the perfect name. However, there's another queen that has already used that for her podcast. And my mind's gone blank as to who that is right now. Oh my goodness. It will come to me and I'll randomly blurt it out in the podcast. So if you have any ideas of what I can call you when I say welcome, or do you like welcome queens? And I know that I have some male listeners as well. I did have something on the tip of my tongue as a suggestion, but that's clearly my brain is not working today, but that's also gone. So let's hope that I can actually deliver this podcast and YouTube in the way I want to deliver it. And I'm sure I can, because it's so funny. I literally went to sleep last night and I was like, oh, it's my podcast creation day tomorrow, meaning today. And it was actually because I usually have an alternate. So I usually have me doing a solo episode, teaching something, and then I have a guest on. And so I do have like not a massive backlog, but I do have guests and live coaching calls and things that I've done that I have ready to put in every other week. But I really do like to ensure that I'm still teaching every other week as well. And it's not just all guests, because you want to hear from me, right? I'm assuming directly because you're listening to my podcast, even though I do have incredible guests. And so I went to bed last night and I was like, do you know what? I haven't even thought about what I'm going to talk about today when I record this podcast. And I actually woke up to an email with a notification from YouTube from the lovely Dana. She comments quite a lot on my YouTube channels. She's in my free group and she's wonderful. She's doing really well with this journey, food freedom and body love journey. And her question was how to do mirror work without turning it into the unhelpful body checking. And I was like, there we go. That's a perfect episode. I will record this today. So here I am. So that was the question from Dana. So thank you, Dana. I know that you're an avid listener and I really appreciate you. And thank you for the question. And I've done it a bit differently today. So usually, not going to lie, it takes me about, I don't even know why or how it takes me this long. It takes me about 4 to 5 hours. I would say 5 hours with interruptions, like walking the dog, doing wife stuff. Although I'm not actually a wife yet. I am a wife this May. I get married. So it's very exciting. It takes me uninterrupted. It takes me about 3.5 hours to write a podcast episode, because I also have a blog on my website that helps with the search engine and all of that. But this time I'm looking at my notes now, I've literally jotted bullet points down and it's took me 15 minutes, if that, 15 minutes around. And so I hope that I deliver this well. Well, I know I will, because I know I'm just going to share openly. And that's what is really helpful to you. And that's what the feedback I get is just me being vulnerable and raw and honest and sharing my knowledge and expertise in what I'm talking about. But it's different because I haven't got my blog to read from. So you might have me being a bit sporadic. So if you do notice a difference, please let me know, because it will help me going forward whether or not to make time. And of course, it's absolutely fine. I pour my heart and soul into this podcast. I'm sure that you can feel that, to spend a day writing it, or to just, it may or may not be better for me to just have a guideline of bullet points that I want to talk about, and then me just talk openly without kind of a script, if you like. So let me know. I want to go first and foremost into what is body checking. I'm almost positive that 99.99% of you listening to this podcast right now or watching this YouTube right now does body checking in one way or another, or at least have done it throughout their life. I know I do get a lot of therapists and psychotherapists and psychologists that listen to this podcast. So hello to all of you. I really appreciate you continuing to better your knowledge in order to help and support and serve your clients further and your patients further. So you may or may not body check yourself, but you are doing this to support your clients. But I will still answer the question, what is body checking? Because honestly, it can be such a habit. We don't realize that we're actually doing it, and it's a very unhealthy behavior. So regular body checking is regular. It's a regular check, if you like, or looking at your body throughout the day. And that can look like going to mirrors purposely to check. That can be looking at yourself in any reflective surface. This sounds vain as fuck, but I've done this, of course I have. And it's actually not from vanity. I mean, I'm going to go into it deeper because it can be, yes, it can be, but then also there's like an anxiety around it. But all in all, it's checking your body or certain body parts in a mirror, in shop windows, in car windows, in reflective surfaces regularly throughout the day. It can also be done at specific times of the day. So for me, it was before eating and it was after eating. For example, and I learned this from my mom who still does this, and I don't do this now because I've rewired this within me and I do something else instead that I'll share in a moment. But before I used to eat, I used to check my tummy to make sure if it was flat or not. And then I would eat, and the second I'd finish eating, I would check my tummy again, almost expecting it to be like 5 times the size, or if it actually looked like I'd eaten, because that's the point in eating food. You put food from your plate in the external, outside, external environment, and you chew it. Obviously, you know how to eat and you enjoy it, hopefully, and you swallow it. And it's got to go somewhere. It's not just going to evaporate in your body, it goes in your stomach. And so it looks like you've got something in your stomach because that's the whole point in eating. I just wanted to point that out because I never really thought about that when I was so stressed about how sticking out my tummy was. So I used to check before, especially after. I used to go into the toilet and lift my top up and check how sticky out my tummy was after I'd eaten. You may or may not experience the same. You might experience it at specific times, such as in the morning a lot, or if you're going on a night out, you might be checking it constantly throughout the day to make sure you look a certain way depending on what you want to wear. It's from this place of anxiety. It's also usually, and it was for me, although it was just an overall body check, it usually is specifically zooming in on a certain area of your body. So for me, it was mainly my stomach and the cellulite on my legs and my thighs. So around the eating stuff, it was always like stomach related and need to have a flat tummy. That was literally like my mantra for life until obviously I've healed that and rewired it. And it was also looking at my legs, but more so my stomach, because as I just shared, when you eat food, your stomach does change throughout the day. And I got praised a lot for my flat stomach. And so it was a bigger emphasis for me. So it can also, and then I want to ask you a few questions around this. Body checking can also be, and notice if you do this, it can be looking at yourself in a mirror, but only from specific angles. So you have the certain way you twist your body this way, or only look at yourself that way in order to feel, quote, okay. So just notice for yourself. And here comes a few questions like, how many times on average would you guess that you did a body check per day within 24 hours? Do you body check compulsively? So almost like you don't have a choice not to? Or would you say it's always a conscious choice to go and do so? Do you notice that you're body checking around specific periods of times? Whether that's before you're going to meet someone, you're checking the mirror like 5 times instead of just once, or before and during and after eating. Like just notice when you're doing it most, and also why. I mean, that question's to come because the whole reason is, well, I'm going to go into that, but ask yourself why you're even doing it and see if you zoom in on a certain body part or not. And also, are you looking at yourself from a specific angle? Now, the next question I want to answer is, why do we body check? Why do we do it? I've mentioned the word anxiety as I was just previously talking. Body checking is born from fear, from anxiety, from control. It can also feel reassured. It can also help you to feel reassured. It can be some reassurance that you're, quote, not as bad as you thought you would be. I've experienced all of it. So mainly for me, with the reassurance part, it was, I need, like with my tummy checking, for example, I just needed to check if my tummy was still flat or at least not as bloated as I thought it was going to be. And then it was like stress check, stress, anxiety check. And then if it wasn't as bad as I thought, I'd be like, oh, okay, now I'm safe. Now it's okay. Now I can relax a little bit because I don't even know why. Because what? Because I thought I looked okay, and therefore I was going to be safe and accepted and not rejected, and therefore loved and validated, right? Already just is coming out naturally. So that's how I got reassurance from body checking. Most of the time, though, I mean, the reassurance mostly came from the times when I, quote, liked the way my physical body looks, or at least didn't hate it. So that would have been in the midst of the eating disorders, which is a shit place and a hellhole to live in anyway. But the reassurance came from just need to check. And like every time I woke up in the morning, the first thing I would do is wake up, look in the mirror, and check what my stomach looked like that day. I would check certain angles. It was like this ritual thing. And then I needed to do that in order to feel okay. Or if it didn't look like I wanted it to look, it would ruin my whole fucking day. I'm sure you can understand how that feels. The second part, and this was primarily for me in the majority of my body checking history, and that was I was body checking because I was trying to control. This is what I mean by trying to control. I was trying to control what other people saw, how other people saw me via controlling what I saw when I looked in the mirror. So let me explain what I mean by that further. You know, I mentioned earlier, like only looking at yourself at specific angles in the mirror. I thought, and I've only just obviously discovered this through self-reflection. At the time, I was not aware of this. So I just question yourself as you're hearing my words to see if this is what you do. By constantly body checking and trying to find angles that was acceptable for me to see myself as, I would do that in the hope that because I was quote controlling how I saw myself and how my body looked, even though you can't, but this is what my delusion was, then I thought that I could control how others saw me, because we always think that others see what we see because we're humans. That's what we do. We think that people think and feel and have the same thoughts as what we have about ourselves. We think that they have the same thoughts about us as we do about ourselves, and that's actually not true. So I would make sure I only looked at myself in certain light. So if it was normal outside bright sunshine light, the cellulite was like 1,000 times worse. And so I felt less in control looking at myself with the sunshine light compared to a dull winter day with not much daylight shining through. That's why in a changing room mirror, you can freak the fuck out because, I mean, I'm not being funny. The lights in the changing room show up everything. And now I'm totally cool with it. And honestly, it used to give me, in fact, it would give me that much of an anxiety attack. I wouldn't even try the clothes on. I would like buy 3 different sizes and take them home to try in my quote controlled environment, and then not like them anyway, but then take the clothes back without having to try them on it in the changing rooms. That's how bad it got. But you cannot control how other people see you, no matter how much you think you can. I'm just going to repeat that. You cannot control how other people see you, no matter how much you think you can. So how often do you do this for yourself? How often do you only look at yourself from certain angles, trying to control the light that you see yourself in order to feel okay? Because that's unrealistic. That's why if you see yourself in a different mirror at a friend's house or in a reflective surface and you're like, holy shit, do I even look like that? Similar feeling to when you see yourself in photos, right? Because you're not quote controlling the situation or the environment, and you're not quite prepared for what you're going to see. It's all about this control thing. We also body check because it's a form of future tripping, meaning if you look in the mirror and you hate what you see, yet you plan in your head a diet or how you're going to restrict or what you're going to quote do about it, you're tripping into the future and you're trying to solve something, because what you're trying to do by doing this body checking behavior, by the way, you're attempting to relieve anxiety. It's an anxiety behavior, but by doing it, you think you're going to relieve the anxiety. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it relieves anxiety if you feel reassured and you can, quote, control how you see yourself. But often it just it all perpetuates the anxiety anyway. It's not helpful. But when you start future tripping, future tripping can be positive or negative. So you can be thinking, right, I'm going to do something about it, and therefore I'm going to diet, I'm going to restrict. When I look in the mirror in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to see myself smaller. It can relieve anxiety and make you feel better, thinking you're going to, quote, do something about it. And the other thing is, you can future trip, like the worst case scenario, and be like, oh my God, I look horrific. I'm going on holiday in like 2 weeks. I'm going to look like a beach whale on the beach. And all the spiraling thoughts that I'm sure you've thought or continue to think on a daily basis. Even doing that is trying to like find some ground under the groundlessness of life and control in your body anyway. You can't. But it's an attempt to try and get some groundedness and some control, which is just all deluded because it doesn't work. It can also just be a habitual self-flagellating behavior. If your comfort zone, if your familiarity is self-abuse, self-flagellation, talking to yourself like shit, spiraling negative thoughts, degrading yourself when you look in the mirror, pinching that, pulling that, or completely avoiding, because I've done both, and some people do one or the other and some people do both also. It can just be your comfort zone to be picking yourself apart, because there's an incredible book that I only recommend you read or listen to if you are ready to meet yourself fully, spiritually, on a personal development level. And that is Existential Kink. I can't think of the author's name, but you will absolutely find it. And she says, having is evidence of wanting. And I fully agree with that. So you say you don't want to feel anxious in your body and hate your body. I say, and trust, this is why it's a deeper spiritual book. I say part of you wants that. Part of you is getting something out of being awful to yourself. Even if that's just your familiar comfort zone is self-abuse, there's a reason that you're still doing that, right? Because we get to change our thoughts, our beliefs, our identity, therefore our whole reality. So do with that what you will, but I definitely recommend you read into the book if you have such a triggering response to that. Like, of course I don't want that. That's the most stupidest thing you would ever say. Listen to or read the book and then let me know if you still feel the same way, because we literally create our own reality. Everything we have around us, our bank account, how you feel about your body, your business, your relationships, your money, we've chosen that because we accept what we tolerate, we accept what we believe about ourselves. And there you go, there you have it. Anyway, that's getting into a different conversation now. But the last thing about why we body check, it can also be like an OCD behavior. I swear it was for me, especially if I was going out, I would like go upstairs to look in the mirror at least like 5 times. And if I didn't do that, I would have like an extreme anxiety within my body. And again, that was just to quote, to check, body checking, right? Kind of is in the vocabulary there. However, it didn't really bring me anything. It just perpetuated the anxiety that I was in. It made the cycle worse. So don't worry if it feels like an OCD, like a compulsive behavior. You absolutely can stop it. And I'm going to share with you how you can stop it now after I've had a sip of my drink. So how to stop them? First of all, you need to ask yourself, why do I want to stop body checking? I really hope that you want to stop body checking, because it can take over your life in so many ways. For example, I live in the Netherlands. If you don't know by now, if you're new here, then I'm British, but I live in the Netherlands. And before I moved into my fiance's house, which, well, it's now our house, there was no full-length mirror in the house at all. And I said to him, I am not joking. I am not moving in unless you fit a full-length mirror in the bedroom or somewhere. And yes, it's helpful to have a full length mirror so you can see yourself in the entirety when you're getting dressed and before you leave the house or whatever. But it was such a big deal for me. And I honestly, I would not have moved in if you hadn't got a mirror. I'm not joking. So it can just completely take over your life. It's just, yeah. I mean, if you're in the body checking behavioral cycle, it's doing you no favors. And I promise you can stop. But first of all, you need to write down, or at the very least, ask yourself the question and answer yourself in your own head. Why do I want to stop this? What negative impact is body checking having on my life? And why would I like to stop? That's the first thing to stop anything, actually. The second thing comes awareness, right? You cannot change something that you're not aware of. So, what I would like you to do is start tuning into and counting a tally on your phone how many times in an average day that you body check. So, do this for 2 days without changing anything and just count how many times a day you actually body check. And then feel free to share that with me because I am going to celebrate you to change that. The second thing, after you've done that and you've become aware, because if you're counting for 2 days, right, you're naturally going to become more aware of it when you do it. And so the second thing, when you notice that you're doing it and the goal is to stop, this is what I did. I literally, if I could say it out loud, then I would, depending on where I was. When I went to body check, I would literally say, nope, and just stop the behavior. And that is when you get to use willpower, right? You've heard of willpower. You think you need more willpower in order to control your food. You don't, because that's biology and you know where that leads, you know the path that leads you down. You can use your willpower to change a behavior that is not serving you, that is not related to food and biology, aka body checking. So you can get to say no. Or I was like, nope, because it was a little bit more humorous than just like, no. It was like, nope, I am not doing this. And then I would stop the behavior. I would like put my top down, whatever the hell it was I was doing. I would just walk away from the mirror. And that's just practice over time. But honestly, it only takes about a week. For me, anyway, I was so adamant at stopping this bullshit behavior that was not serving me. I changed it pretty quickly. When you notice that you're doing it and you say nope or nope and then walk away and stop the behavior, then you can tune in and be like, why was I just going to do that? And you will figure out and get to know yourself on such a deeper level if you take the time to ask yourself why. Why was I just about to do that? And you'll figure out, like I say, you'll learn a lot about yourself and the why behind it. And then ask yourself, why was you going to do that? And then that whatever the answer to that question is, ask yourself why again 3 times. And then you'll usually get right down to the root cause on why you're doing it. Let's say you go to, I'll use one of mine. Let's say I will use one of mine as an example. You know, going off sideline here, one of my clients who's not a client anymore, she doesn't need, well, she is in my group container, Julia. Hi, Julia. She said to me, I think your brain, no, hold on. What did she say? She said, because I was talking about the way I get words wrong and I literally make words up. And I'm not joking. I was interviewed for a podcast 2 days ago that will be released soon with Alana, Food and Freedom Fitness. And I used the word infatuated in the completely wrong place. And I heard myself say it. This is what I do. I like watch myself say things that make no sense, completely make words up. Sometimes I just pretend it didn't happen and hope no one didn't notice. And sometimes I'm like, really, Vic? That makes no sense. I don't even know where I'm going with this because that was it. Julia said, I think what happens is your mouth works faster than your brain. No, what does she say? You get the gist. Like my brain's working on overdrive and I can't get it out fast enough, something like that. But you know what? A quote has just come to me, and this is so true. And this is what my mum used to say to me all the time: more haste, less speed. And so when you're getting ready and you're rushing, perhaps you're on a time schedule and then you're dropping things and you go to pick a sock up and you have to bend down like 5 fucking times before you can actually pick it up off the floor. You know what I mean? More haste, less speed. Anyway, it's a good job I have some notes, else I would just be all over the place. Why? Yeah, okay, here I was. I was giving you an example of my past self. So let's say the way I used to body check like 5 times before I went out to a restaurant or wherever, even just to a frigging friend's house, I would notice I was doing it and then I'd be like, nope. And I'd walk away. And then I'd be like, why was I just going to do that? Why was I just going to body check? And it was for me, then it was like, if I think back to an example, let's just say I was going to my friend's house in my pajamas and I'd still body check. It was to make sure I looked okay. And then I'd be like, well, why does that matter? Whatever that means to you, looking okay, when you're literally going to your friend's house in your frigging pajamas to sit and eat chocolate, have cuddles and watch a movie. And then when I asked myself that question, like, why, I didn't really have an answer apart from the same old, I need to make sure I look okay, because to the inner child version of Victoria, looking okay meant love, acceptance, good enough. And that's just my old narrative that I've healed now, but I didn't heal this at the time. And so it comes up and it manifests in other things like anxiety. You need to body check to make sure I look okay. So if you're looking for reassurance, or if you're looking for validation, or if you're looking for, what else could you be looking for? Reassurance, validation, love, acceptance. See if you can seek that from elsewhere. I mean, obviously, we're talking about self-love here. It needs to come from within, because you're the only one that can fill that hole up within yourself. But for now, as you're on your journey to come back home to self-love, because it's your birthright, by the way, you don't have to learn how to love yourself, you already do, you just need to remember. You can speak to, if you're lucky enough to have a very supportive partner, you can speak to your partner and say, I'm just feeling really insecure at the moment, and I know that I'm asking for validation right now, but can you give me some, please? And just reassure that I'm okay, because it's okay to use those validations and support and love from others as stepping stones before you can just give it to yourself, and you don't need it from anywhere else. So see if whatever you're seeking, see if you can seek it from elsewhere without having to body check to try and get it, okay? And so the last thing in terms of how do you stop it, those things that I've shared, but the last thing I want to say around this is notice how you feel when you've stopped body checking, or at least halved the amount, or halved it and then halved it again. Notice how you feel when you're no longer doing that obsessive behavior. Now, from personal experience, you will feel both positive and negative emotions. And I know I've said before in previous podcasts, and I can hear myself saying it now, I don't like to use positive and negative as for emotions, because emotions are just emotions. As humans, we make them mean something, so they're positive or negative, but they just are. But I'm using it in this context because it makes sense. And when we feel a quote negative emotion, it doesn't feel nice. So that's what I mean. Just because it doesn't feel comfortable, it doesn't mean it's negative. But I'm using that language because clearly still part of me thinks that, which is why I'm using the language as positive and negative. So when I stopped body checking, I felt a weird sense of like peace that I didn't trust to start with. So I felt quite free and I felt quite peaceful. But then I was like, yeah, but I don't trust that though, because you're so used to like needing to check from that anxiety. So I felt a mixture of peace, freedom, liberation, but then also still the anxiety was there, and the suspicion that yeah, but I need to be checking because of all the bullshit reasons, that the reason I've done it in the first place. And these are very similar for a lot of people, like because society tells us we need to look a certain way. All of it comes back to not feeling good enough, low self-worth, and lack of self-love. Always. Yes, there's some trauma and stuff in there to process and to work through and to let go of, but the root's always the same. So what's mirror work then? And then also I'm going to ask, how is it different to body checking? So mirror work is time spent consciously in front of the mirror with the goal of deepening the connection with yourself, and also with the goal of feeling better after you've walked away from the mirror and done the mirror work than before when you first started the mirror work. And it's actually the only way. I say the only way. Again, I always speak from personal experience, having tried frigging everything in my entire life. You can, quote, lose weight and feel better in your body temporarily and be like, yeah, I have good body image now. No, you don't. Just because your self-worth and happiness is linked to your body size or how you think you look, and you're currently looking the way you want to look, that doesn't mean you've healed your body image. It means you've just put a plaster over the wound, which is actually, I want to say bad body image. I don't want to use the word bad, which is lack of self-love, lack of self-acceptance, conditional love, all of that. Because I go deep, right? But it actually, mirror work is a way to overcome and to navigate and to work through body avoidance and to stop body checking. So it's a really healing exercise. And there's a few exercises I'm going to share with you. And it's different to body checking because body checking is coming from a place of anxiety. It's born from fear. Whereas mirror work is conscious and it's birthed out of love. So mirror work is purposely choosing to do this mirror work and spend time with yourself in order to deepen the connection with yourself, in order to get to know yourself, in order to heal the wounds that need to be healed. Okay. So the next question that I've answered, why do mirror work? Why bother? Okay. Before I tell you why, off the bat, it's the hardest thing. Okay, actually, I don't want to speak that into existence. Let me bring it back to I and me. It's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do is mirror work around body image. Because when I used to look in the mirror and I didn't like my body, I would feel so much panic and anxiety and fear. I literally couldn't cope. I knew I wasn't going to die. And I know that most of you will probably understand what I'm trying to describe here. It was the worst. It was literally, was it the worst experience I've ever had? I think it is, honest to God. And I've not lost a parent. I want to say yet. I mean, we're all going to die, right? I've not lost a parent. So I'm only comparing things to what I've experienced in my life. But even over the abuse of being raped and hit physically and violated in more ways than one, honestly, I can say, looking in the mirror and hating my body and the panic and fear I had around that was way worse than any of the abuse. That's how bad it was for me. And I couldn't leave my body. I didn't want to die, but I find it difficult to find the words, and I really hope that you understand. Let me know if you understand what I'm trying to share here. And at the same time, I'm sad that if you do understand, because you will be feeling what I felt. It would just be overwhelming anxiety, panic. I can't describe it. It was awful. It was horrific. Think of a word worse than like it was just, this is where I need a wordsmith to help me. It was deeper than overwhelming. Whatever a bigger word is for overwhelming, it was that. So why do the mirror work then, right? I'm just laying the law down. Don't even know if that's the right thing to say, lol, laying the law down. I'm just saying it's bloody hard. Let me put my proper British accent on. It's bloody hard to do, right? But it's worth doing because you improve your body image massively. You experience body freedom and body acceptance and body love, truly, through doing this work. It stops you from running away from yourself emotionally and spiritually here. It stops you from running and dieting and restricting and running and planning a diet and then putting weight on and still planning and running and everything will be better when I've lost weight and then I'll have the relationship and life. It stops you from running away from yourself to try and get to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that is a smaller body. You have to face yourself fully, authentically, with no avoidance, and you have to overcome your greatest fears. And I know that you'll understand what I mean. If someone was listening to this who didn't have body image or food issues, they would think I was a Fruit Loop. I am a Fruit Loop, FYI, but you know what I mean, right? The reason you're here, 99.9% of you, is because you've had or you have extreme difficulties living and loving and that's a nice word, living and loving. Living and loving and living in the body you currently have. So I know that you'll understand. So you get to meet yourself fully and face your greatest fears. You get to feel, this is the hard part, one of the hard parts. You get to feel your deepest, darkest, squished down, pushed down, hidden feelings. Most of the time, that's shame and all the flavors of that. You get to feel that. And I say you get to because when it's ready to come up, and it will come up. If you're listening to this podcast, this will come up in mirror work. This is why it's so fucking hard, but so worth it. And it's the only way out, right? The only way to the other side is through. And Rumi says, the cure for the pain is in the pain. Mic drop, truth bomb, so friggin' true. So you get to really go to the depth and the depth of the darkness of yourself and your feelings. You get to really see yourself. You get to be so goddamn vulnerable with you. You cannot help but deepen the relationship you have with yourself. It's a huge act of self-love, mirror work, definitely. And again, it's deep spiritual work. It's deep personal development work. It's deepening the connection with yourself. Said that a few times, but it's so true. And it improves your self-confidence massively. You get to live a way happier life that's more peaceful. And you're no longer fearful of photos being taken, even if it's at the world's shittest angle and you look absolutely ridiculous. You can laugh at yourself with love. Because I'm thinking of a photo now that I posted my group coaching because it's hilarious. Not that it matters, but there's a photo taken of me. I'm actually going to put this in the blog. I'm just going to do it. There's 2 photos that is hilarious. I wonder where the other one is. One of them, I'm watching the TV and I don't know why Valta took this photo. And I'm like, I've got my head like tilted to the side and I've got about 5 chins and I look like I can't even tell you what I look like. And then the other one is, it wasn't that long ago, the way that it's taken, I've got big arms anyway, muscly arms, and I have fat on my arms. And it looks like my arm is the size of my whole body and my face is like oblong. And it's hilarious. Not that I'm laughing at someone with a big arm and an oblong face, but you get the point, right? Back in the day, if I would have seen those photos of myself, oh my God, I would have deleted them, let alone put them on social media, in my group to do this healing body image work around photos. So this mirror work is very deeply healing. You get to live a happier and freer and more peaceful life around having your photo taken. When you see yourself in a different mirror, in a changing room, and you'll be like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. That's a lot. And you just deal with it because you've done this work, right? You've got to do the work. This is what I mean by the work. So the $1 million question, okay, no, it's not a $1 million question. A very important question in this episode. Wow, I've been chatting for 40 minutes with no script. How to do mirror work. Now, I have like 11 different mirror work things I'm going to share with you. And I would love for you to share with me what you try. And this kind of is in a bit of an order, to be honest. So as you'll see, as I go through them, you can't start. Well, you can, but I couldn't have, and I'm strong as fuck. And I know everyone listening to this is also strong as fuck. I couldn't start at number 9 if I hadn't started with number 1. So I'm going to share them with you now. Number 1, and I don't write, no matter how small these feel or sound, no matter how insignificant these sound, that's a better way of putting it, I want you to do them. I paid a coach thousands for me to, I mean, I've added all of my own shit here, but the first one that I'm going to share with you now, she said this to me, and the only reason I did it was because I paid her thousands to work with her, and I was like, whatever it fucking takes to get me out of the hellhole of this eating disorder, which at that point was binge eating, and I wasn't even purging at that point. It was just eating all day, every day, and hating myself for it. Number 1 is be okay with looking. What does that even mean, right? It is literally going to the mirror and being okay with looking. Because if you're anything like I used to be, you would go to the mirror and you know those feelings that I tried to describe to you a while ago, you would feel those feelings. But you wouldn't even feel them because you'd be so overwhelmed by them and trying to push them away. It was almost impossible to feel. So I went from that, like literally wanting to practically die because I hated everything about what I was looking at. And then that meant so much to me. It was like my life was in danger because I didn't think I looked okay. I went from that to being okay with looking. And I tell you now, I had tears for weeks. I would look and it wasn't, I kind of had to force myself to look. And again, because I'd paid this money, and that's why coaching also is freaking powerful, because when you invest in yourself, you show up and do the frigging work that you would avoid otherwise. And showing up and doing the work gets you to where I am, right? So there's a reason for investing and all of that. And I put it on my credit card, by the way, that I had to borrow in my mum's name. So it's not like I even had the money at the time either. I was just like, you know, whatever it fucking takes, I need to get over this. So I just practiced going to the mirror, started off in my underwear and then ended naked. And I was just practicing. So of course I couldn't do it to begin with. I just practiced being okay with looking. And I was crying my eyes out and I was being okay with looking. And as I kept doing that every day and just allowing the emotions to come out, allowing the tears to be there, not trying to mindset my way into, oh, well, I like my hair today, or oh, no, fuck that, not at that stage, not accessible, made me angry, made it worse, literally made it worse. So I was just okay with looking. Just remembering how that felt and just sending love to my past self right now, because that was fucking hard. The second thing is to sit with the suck. And there's an incredible body image coach called Body Image with Brie, and she's in a fat body and she calls herself fat as well. So I'm reclaiming that word. I mean, what does it even mean? She's in a large body and she has a good podcast called the Body Grievers Club, and she uses the phase, this is where I've got it from, so it's not mine. She calls it sitting in the suck or sitting with the suck or something like that. And that's the second stage I was at. So I would be okay with looking with a lot of tears and a lot of practice at doing that. I mean, sometimes I just physically couldn't, but I'd show up for myself every day in the mirror. Before I did my makeup, else I'd have to redo my makeup because of all the tears. Be okay with looking. And then when I was okay with looking, I would sit with the suck. I would sit with all those feelings that I was able to feel because they weren't so overwhelming at this point, of shame and disgust and sadness and anger and rejection, because I was rejecting myself. All those shitty feelings that feel shit and painful. I definitely need to put explicit on this podcast episode, don't I? As with all of them. And I just sat with that. And I put my hand on my heart and I cried again and I cried some more. And I didn't feel better after, but you need to go through this. It's so helpful to have support, right? That's the second stage. Told you it was going to be hard, but trust me, wait till you get to the end of this. And this is where you get to. Number 3 was exposure therapy. And this is where the acceptance starts to come in. So I guess the first part, being okay with looking and the sitting with the suck, it's a form of it. To be fair, yeah, it's a form of acceptance, but it's acceptance with the energy of I fucking hate this and I have to accept it. Step 3, the exposure therapy, which I'm going to share with you in depth now, is more from the energy of I accept this, I don't hate it, and I don't like it either. But whatever. It is what it fucking is. Whatever, right? It's a higher vibrational feeling of acceptance. And look at me deciding that there's layers of acceptance when acceptance really is one thing, but it makes sense to me because that was where I was at. So this is huge. Do not skip this part. Do not skip any parts, but exposure therapy looks like for me, and it still does, doing random shit in front of the mirror, sitting, and I get my clients to do this as well, sitting on a pillow, naked or in your underwear, journaling in front of the mirror. So you're not purposely looking at yourself the whole time, but you're doing something, but you're seeing yourself, even eating in front of the mirror, getting dressed purposely in front of the mirror without doing your controlling, only look at yourself from this angle with this light on. I would purposefully open the curtains, not so I could flash everyone, but so I could let natural daylight in. That triggered the shit out of me. And I would be like, no, well, we're going to get triggered. Let's do this, girl. And I would like really kind of start to practice being with myself and noticing everything I hated about what I saw, but practicing just being with that and accepting that. I would dance, and I still do, dance in front of the mirror, naked dancing in front of the mirror, naked yoga in front of the mirror, just getting dry after a shower in front of the mirror. Like, the more times that you can spend in front of the mirror, and I'm going to go into towards the end what to do when you notice body checking creeping in when you're doing mirror work, but I'll share that in a moment. Anything that you can do in front of the mirror, you don't have to like it. Of course you're not going to like it, but this is exposure therapy. You get used to you. You're only used to seeing you at certain angles, in certain lights, when you look a certain way. I want you to get to know who you really are. And you won't like that for now. And that's okay, because you move past that. So purposefully, I would bend over in front of the mirror when I was getting my socks on. Whereas I used to turn away, because obviously you get rolls when you bend over. And this is lovingly challenging myself to see myself in all different ways and angles and movements. And I also used to film myself doing a workout upstairs in literally my sports bra, and that's it, purposely for body image work. Film myself doing like star jumps and burpees and all the stuff, and watch it back and be like, I notice myself cringing at myself, like, holy shit, when I'm doing star jumps and turning around and all of that, my cellulite's literally like, you know how you see those horrible, I don't know if they have them anymore, like memes of like big women with like big bodies and cellulite, then they're basically taking the piss out of them because they're, quote, so disgusting. No wonder we feel the way we feel. I would literally look like one of those, and I'll be okay with it, because I'll be like, again, this is a process, but I'll be like, it is what it is. What am I going to do? Diet? Next joke. You really start to grasp acceptance. And that was challenging for me, to purposely film myself and watch it back and be like, oh my God, this is so hard to look at. But I would hold my own hand and cocoon myself in my kind of compassion bubble whilst I was doing that. And as with everything that I talk about, it's what I was making it mean. So let's say I was looking at that video being like, holy shit, that I look awful. I would be like, but what does that even mean? Okay, let's pretend you look awful. And then what? What does that mean? And then when you really start to ask yourself, what am I making this mean? It's easier to let go and to feel your feelings around it and to just meet yourself with where you're at. And so another thing that I used to do in terms of exposure therapy, like I've mentioned, some like dancing, yoga, working out, doing things naked, seeing yourself at all times of the day. So see yourself in different lights as the day goes through its daily cycle with the sun and whatever. Look at yourself without body checking. Look at yourself purposely in practice of acceptance when you've eaten, before you've eaten, like later on in the day, to practice seeing your body change as it goes through its days. Also, when we have a menstrual cycle, Jesus, I can't wear, I have one pair, I say I don't own a pair of jeans, and I do own one pair of jeans. And sometimes I don't really wear jeans because I don't feel comfortable, but I did last menstrual cycle. I think that's why, because I was going to London and I wanted to have most of my dresses and I couldn't be bothered to wash them again. So I was like living in this old pair of jeans. And then when I was on my period, on just before, I couldn't even have the button done up. It was like I'd like gained 2 dress sizes overnight in the space of a couple of days before my menstrual cycle, because I get so bloated. So I would purposely then go and look at my tummy and stroke my tummy and see myself fully in different phases of my cycle. And I would also physically shrug my shoulders in front of the mirror and be like saying out loud, well, this is what my body looks like today. And you go from that energy of almost like, oh, don't even care or can't do anything about it. It is what it is. Like almost like when you look outside and you're like, oh, well, it's raining. Oh, well, practice being in that energy. Number 4, I need a drink. Sorry, podcasters. Most people would edit this out, but I'm not joking. It's like too much effort to do that. Number 4 is eye gazing in the mirror. Now, I'm talking about eye gazing with yourself, looking in to your eyes. Like, I mean, you can't look at both eyes at the same time. Well, you can if you're further enough away, but I've tried that and you kind of like look from one to the other. But really taking the time to stare into your own eyes, preferably naked. I mean, I'm not a nudist. I know I sound like I am, but I'm really not. Stare into your own eyes and say to yourself out loud, I love you, and then your name. So mine was, I love you, Victoria, or even just, I love you. Or if that feels too out of reach for you, say, I am remembering how to love you more and more each day. Whatever feels truer for you. And you're going to cry or get angry or think this is ridiculous and stupid. What's the point? I was like, this is stupid. Why would anyone do this? Because I had so much resistance around it, right? So I want you to practice eye gazing with yourself in the mirror, saying nice things to yourself, reading out in fact, I've learned something recently that I want to share with you. So I talk about affirmations a lot, and they are powerful, and I don't just use positive, toxic positivity affirmations. I use affirmations that actually work because you believe them and then you work up to where you want to be. But I was listening to Steve Hardison, which my fiance Wouter told me about. We've known about him for a while now. He's called the Ultimate Coach. He lives in Arizona. And if you want to be coached by him, it's 200,000 for a year, and you have to go there every session. Anyway, he is an incredible man. He's literally walking love. He's incredible. And he was saying, and I like this, so I'm going to take this now. Instead of affirmations, use a declaration. I'm going to give you an example. So let's say your affirmation is, I love myself unapologetically, or even I'm learning to or remembering to love myself unapologetically as you're doing your eye gazing. This flipped into a declaration would be like this. I am love. I give and receive my own love to myself and to others unapologetically as fuck. Like, I mean, yes, it's the way I'm saying it because I have a lot of passion around what I've written, but there's a difference between I love myself unapologetically, which is great to have as an affirmation, absolutely, compared to when you're staring at yourself in your own eyes and you say, I am love. I give and receive my own love to myself and to others unapologetically as fuck. You're also declaring that you are the source of what you say you seek. So if you want self-love and you're just saying, I love myself, if you're reminding yourself, because you are love, by the way, that I am love and therefore I give and receive my own love to myself and others, that's incredible, right? Very powerful. So eye-gazing declarations to yourself. Let me just put my focus back on, because my mum messages me on iMessage and it always comes through. It was so cute. I was in a coaching call last night and then I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb. And then it was all bleeping through. And I was like, what is she sending me? And she was sending me random photos of like, how shall I have my hair cut? I think I'm going to have it shorter. What do you think? She's so cute. Anyway, again, I told you I digress when I haven't got a script to follow. Number 5, let me just check I've said everything I wanted to say about eye gazing. Number 5 for mirror work is a forgiveness ritual. This is freaking powerful. They all are, right? But you need to do these. Forgiveness ritual looks like setting the scene. So soft lighting, candles. Going to just bring my voice tone down a little bit because I get a bit excited. I just need to bring it back into alignment with the words I'm saying. Soft music, candles, low lighting. Put the radiator on in your bedroom or wherever your mirror is, and create a sacred, safe environment for you to be in. Stand in front of the mirror, guess what? Naked, or at least with your underwear on only, and start from the top of your head and go down to the bottom of your feet, to the end of your toes, and start apologizing to each body part that you have rejected or ridiculed, and then forgive yourself for doing that. It could look like, I apologize to I'm just thinking of myself, to my nose for rejecting you, for wishing you could have a nose job, for saying it was too big. All the times I've done that and ridiculed myself in my own head and out loud about it. And I forgive myself for doing that. And go through every part of your body that you've rejected. It might be every single piece of you. Another one of mine, I'm sorry, arms, for always saying you were too big and not toned enough and always hiding you and covering you up when it was really hot outside. And all I wanted to do was just to let my arms breathe, but I didn't because I was embarrassed. I'm sorry, but I forgive myself for doing that. Okay, so that's your forgiveness ritual. The second, well, it's number 6, but it's similar and you can do it at the same time if you like, after the forgiveness ritual, is a gratitude ritual. So again, set the scene, go from your head to your toes and say out loud everything that you're grateful for that particular body part. Like, honestly, eyes, I am so grateful for you because I get to friggin' see. And I appreciate that even more because now I wear glasses to see long distance. So I can't drive without them when I can, but be a bit dangerous and illegal. And now I wear them when I walk and stuff. I do realize like how much I need them, which is kind of sad to say that. But it is what it is, right? And so I'm so grateful that I get to see, though, because all the beautiful things that we get to see. Imagine if we didn't have eyes to see. And some people listening to this might not actually be able to see. In fact, I know one of my ladies in my free group is partially blind. And so I don't want to feel sorry for her because I don't. But imagine what that must be like. Hi, Caroline, if you're listening. And so every part of your body, just send gratitude to your nose, like your taste buds, your tongue, your arms to hug people, all of it. Gift yourself a gratitude ritual for your body. Number 7 for mirror work is a compliment ritual. So obviously you can do all these at the same time, or you can do them separately, or you might need to spend some time with one for a couple of days or weeks before you can then move on to the other without feeling like you're lying to yourself. So number 7 is a compliment ritual. So whatever you look for, you will find. That is so true. You look for roses, you will find roses. You look for thorns, you will find thorns or weeds or whatever. Whatever you look for, you will find. And so if you stand in front of the mirror and purposely choose, because it's a choice, choose to look for the good that you see within your physical appearance. because we're talking specifically about body image, right? I mean, your body is the least interesting thing about you, but we're doing specific appearance body image work. So look for something that you like. It might be, for me, it was my eyes. I do like my eyes. It could be your teeth, it could be your hair, it could be your shoulder blades, it could be completely anything. It could be your bum, ankles, toes, whatever. And purposely look for things that you like about yourself with your appearance and focus in on them and compliment yourself throughout the day with whatever you choose that day. Every time you look in the mirror without checking, just naturally going past something, just take a moment to compliment yourself out loud or in your own head, because whatever you look for, you will find. If your brain is watching you look for things you like about yourself, it's going to find things to like about yourself without you even consciously trying, because that's how the unconscious mind works too. That's really powerful exercise to do. Now we're getting quite out the box. So number 8 is a sensual ritual. And what I mean by this is to again, set the scene, low lighting, like whatever you feel comfortable in, make it warm, be naked, touch your body in a sensual way. So perhaps if you had, I mean, I couldn't even touch my stomach like for many years. I physically couldn't put my hands on my stomach. If I did body cream on my body, I would not touch my stomach because I physically couldn't, because I could not risk feeling squidginess. So that's where I started and my cellulite as well. With those parts, we're lovingly touching them and caressing them and noticing the rejection, noticing the body stiffness and the like, the panic, and just relaxing into that and just lovingly stroking myself. And I tell you what, I'm going to link this queen below. She's called Iris, and I think she's from Switzerland, potentially. You look at her Instagram account and you come and tell me that after looking at, let's say, 4 of her reels, you do not feel loving towards your body, even a little bit. You come and tell me if you don't. She is incredible, and you'll know exactly what I mean when you see her. She is in her underwear all the time, and she lovingly, sensually touches her body in a genuine, loving way. And it's so bloody beautiful. And I learned from her, from watching her. And I did and do that for myself. And actions speak louder than words. So if your brain is watching you, do that with sensuality and softness and touch and love. Your body will start to relax and to feel accepted. You can also do this with your partner. So a few times for a few clients, I've asked them to ask their partners to touch the parts of their body where they'll be like, and like stiffen up and feel fear of rejection and judgment. And they would purposely ask their partners to touch their soft tummy, for example, and feel the rolls, and to just practice relaxing into that and accepting that touch. I want you to do that for yourself. Okay, number 9 of body image work, sexual ritual. Dress up for yourself in sexy lingerie, in an outfit, or naked. Naked's always good, but dressing up like feels different. I recommend that. Take photos of yourself for yourself, just purely for this body image work. And sexy is a choice, right? You get to feel sexy. Put some sexy music on. That is key for this. Get a really sensual, sexy environment. So again, warm, low lighting, maybe some candles, sexy music for sure. Start to like move your body like to the sensual, sexy music. Perv on yourself in the mirror, even if you're not liking what you see. Just play with this. See if you can tune into the sexual energy. See if you can tune into your sexual essence as a woman, because that is your superpower, your sensuality, your sexuality. And that doesn't mean a body size, by the way. It's femininity. It's that sensual, sexy power that we all have. that we're most often disconnected from. There's a great book by Mama Gina called Pussy. It's such a great read. Recommend you read that. I spam you with books all the time, don't I? And spend time self-pleasuring in front of the mirror. Now that is an edge, right? And I've done that, and it felt like an edge, but it was sexy. And then when you look at yourself as well, and look at your eyes when you're doing it, and just watch yourself in pleasure. That is such a beautiful gift to give yourself, to watch yourself in pleasure, being pleasured by yourself and seeing that. Can you see how you have to work up to these things? But these can be so healing. And then number 10 is bring your partner. If you have a partner that you trust, bring your sexual partner into this. Have sex in front of the mirror. Look at yourself like in angles and just watch you in pleasure. Watch yourself in connection. Watch yourself be and live in a body that's not just about you standing there judging your body, you know? Get to know yourself. See your expressions. Notice the judgments and let them go. Like, this is so healing. And then the last one is, you can't go really deeper than that, but this is a bit random. You can prep yourself to help yourself for a future event with mirror work. So let's say you're going on holiday and you want to wear a swimming costume or a bikini, and you're dreading it and you think you need to diet for it. Don't diet. Practice this instead. Wear your bikini like every day for a month and just do some mirror work with it. Not body checking, just being in your bikini and practicing acceptance, practicing all the steps that I've shared with you, and practice being in that. And then when you do get to the holiday and put your bikini on or swimwear on, it will feel a lot better and you'll feel a lot more relaxed than dreading it and then it ruining your holiday because you feel so self-conscious. I've been there too, okay? And the last thing I wanted to talk about, oh, wow, I've been talking for over an hour, is what to do when you notice that your body checking is creeping into and ruining your mirror work. Right. So the first thing is awareness, as always, to notice that, and you'll know because you'll feel anxious, you will be judging yourself, and it won't be feeling good. I mean, body image work is challenging, as I've shared, but it will be this anxious, you're in fight or flight, you're tense, you're anxious, you're breathing heavy, your heart's racing, you're sweaty. You know what that feels like. So when you notice that you feel that way, say this quote to yourself out loud. Tension is who we think we should be. Relaxation is who we are. And then allow yourself to let go, because you need to bring your nervous system down from fight or flight or freeze to rest and digest. When you're in an anxiety state of panic, of judgment, of fear, you're not relaxed. You cannot then access logical mind. You can't mindset your way out of a trauma response. So say a quote, put some music on, breathe, just take a moment. Just noticing can just snap you out of it. Bring yourself back down to rest and digest, and start coming back to body acceptance. And when you feel a bit more calmer with whatever mirror work ritual you're doing, you can then check in with yourself and ask, why was that anxiety there? What is that showing me? What do I need to learn from this experience? How can I surrender and fully accept myself as I am in this moment? There's so much around body image, right? And I really hope that this episode has been helpful for mirror work, because it's such a powerful part of the process for body image. And I've gone quite in detail here. Obviously, there's a lot more detail we can go in, and during my coaching, I can make it specific for you. Sometimes on a coaching call, we actually do physical, real life mirror work on the call, because you need me to support you through it and ask you questions as you're doing that. So if you feel called to work with me, there's 3 different ways that you can be in my world. The first way is by investing in yourself with the Body Love Bite, and that's €49. And I always over deliver with my programs. The second way is group coaching. And that is, I should have had this up ready because I actually made it even more accessible. Bear with me while I get it up. That is weekly coaching in the group, live monthly coaching from Zoom calls. You can be in the group for as long as you need. There's no kind of cut-off point. You're in there for as long as you need. And there's a private support group. You have my whole Body Love Binge program to go to, which takes like 4 months to go through. And you can join that for a one-off payment of €1,200, which some may say that is a lot, but I swear to God, this is why I do a money back guarantee. When you realize the value and the ongoing value you receive, it's worth 10 times that amount. Or you can have 12 payments of €150. And so that's why I made it more accessible. I did an extended payment plan, and there's a 120-day money back guarantee on that. And then also the one-to-one coaching is the most supportive way you can work with me, with 24/7 WhatsApp support. And the details of that are on my website as well. So I hope this episode has been valuable to you and helpful. If it has been helpful, please, can you share it with somebody and take a few seconds to 5-star and review this podcast or this YouTube. You can't rate a YouTube, but like and subscribe and all of that, because it really helps me reach more people. So I would be so grateful if you could do that. I'm grateful for you for listening and for watching. I love you, and I will see you next time. Kisses.